everybody. Welcome to another episode of Evil Dread. I'm Lynn.
And I'm Wyeth.
And tonight we are tackling two Halloween seasonal faves. Well, one Halloween seasonal fave for both of us, and one that Wyeth didn't like, so that I loved as a child.
Because the nostalgia factor is very strong for you.
Okay, but it's also good. Agree to disagree, whatever.
Agree to
it's
disagree.
Very good. Okay, anyway, so tonight we're talking about Over the Garden Wall and Scary Godmother's Halloween Spooktacular, both of which are Cartoon Network productions.
What year did the Spooktacular premiere?
Well, I had watched it quite a few times by, like, 5th grade, so maybe, like, 2003.
Yep, that would, yeah. It's very Jimmy Neutron level
the animation
computer graphics.
Is shit. It's
yes.
so awful. So we're starting with that one, I guess?
I think we should.
So, Scary Godmother is, two specials were made for Cartoon Network based on this, book series by Jill Thompson, and it's very like, oh, this little girl is being tormented on Halloween by her older cousin and his friends, so her scary godmother takes her to the fright side, and they have a Halloween party and learn to love others and shit like that.
It's very much a queer party.
Oh my god, okay, so as a child, I obviously was not really aware of the heavily coded characters in Scary Godmother. Let's talk about the skeleton.
The skeleton in the closet.
The skeleton who lives in a closet, which, clever because of the term skeleton in the closet. But he also talks like this. Hello.
It's a real Tim Gunn voice.
No, it's not. Tim Gunn talks like this. Okay? Jesus Christ. How dare you insult. But yeah, he's very theatrical. Mm-hmm. He wears a top hat and a bow tie.
And he makes a lot of hand gestures.
And bone jokes.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's that.
And he spends the whole night flirting with a wolf who loves the theater. Yeah,
the werewolf is very Oscar Wilde-esque. He's very hedonistic and also thinks he's clever, but they're both very, very flamboyant.
Very.
Yeah, and they, all live together in a house, and Scary Godmother is, the grace to their will.
The Will and Jack.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, it's so... Yeah, I didn't realize that as a kid, but it's very sweet now that I realize it, but it's... Let's get that queer coding into children's...
2003.
That's ahead of its time,
yeah.
Man. Yeah, we were looking we watched this on YouTube. Both movies are on YouTube, but both the original and the Revenge of Jimmy, the sequel.
Which we thankfully did not get to.
It's good, Wyeth, and I wanted to watch it. But anyway, in the comments, someone was like, anybody else love that gay skeleton? And it's 700 upvotes.
There's quite a bit of community. Who would have imagined the skeleton would be such an early LGBT
icon, truly an icon. It's just sweet, and there's a vampire family that comes over, and there's terrible puns, and it's very poorly written, but it's fun and silly, and I watched it every Halloween. I have this on VHS, actually. I don't have a VHS player though.
I feel like this is very much due for a modern remake.
I agree. And we were talking, the animation is so bad.
When you first mentioned it, for some reason it got in my head it was going to be in the style of something like Courage, the Cowardly Dog.
I wish.
And so when it wasn't 2D animation and was instead
terrible CGI.
Very
3D.
Bad CGI.
And there are animated sections that are clearly done by Jill Thompson because it's the style of the books, and they're so good. This needs to be remade 2D animation, and I'll give it all my money.
I feel like modern Cartoon Network is doing a lot for animation right now.
I agree. Yeah.
And so Definitely. It would be a perfect time.
So what are your general thoughts on Scary Godmother? He made me stop and show him Cuphead.
Because you said you wanted to.
I said, after we were going to get done, but he's like, hey, maybe we should, get out Cuphead right now.
Yeah, I couldn't make it through it. It was too rough. It was a very meandering kids movie.
It is like 45 minutes long.
I know.
It is not long at all. And you couldn't even do that. Basically, you're dead to me, I guess, is what you're saying.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't hold up. I have viewed it, like, in the past few years, and it's like, I acknowledge that it's not very good, but I also love it to death. It's like American Beauty. Like, that movie, like, kicked my ass when I was 13, and now I'm like, ugh. Well,
Really?
that's aged poorly.
We went for the American Beauty reference?
Yeah, because it also aged poorly, and I also acknowledge that it's not as good as I thought it was, but I still have a place in my heart for it. Mm-hmm.
I think you need
Scary
to
Godmother, American Beauty, cinematic parallels is what I'm saying.
I think you need to do some heart cleaning.
What the hell does that mean?
I think you can do better than
I love
American
that movie.
Beauty.
I still do. It's great. Love that movie.
Well, so that's
Haters back off.
That's our 2 cents on Scary Godmother.
My 2 cents is you should watch it if you have 45 minutes and you like children's entertainment and Halloween.
Or you could watch instead Over the Garden Wall.
You can watch both. Like, don't act like we have to choose. We definitely didn't choose for this podcast. So I guess we're gonna get into Over the Garden Wall right now.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about it, Wyatt.
So Over the Garden Wall is a very beautifully done animated series about 2 boys lost in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Greg and Wirt.
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 Yeah, voiced by Elijah Wood.
Mm-hmm.
John Cleese does voice work. Tim Curry, Melanie Linsky, who starred in one of our favorite movies here. I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. It has a stellar voice cast.
And Christopher Lloyd.
Yes, he's the woodsman.
Not to pass him up, but this series is, oh my god, it's so beautiful. It's like the epitome of New England, small town in the woods, gothic.
In like 1890.
Yeah.
It's very turn of the century, like harvest imagery, autumnal vibes, and like, yeah, it's clearly set in like a distant past, like turn of the century, and it's just so beautiful, and everything's all like foliage and pumpkins everywhere, and they're walking through the woods and going on meeting little weirdos and going on misadventures.
Like folktale creatures.
Yeah, it's very much like that.
It's like there's a little bit of like Wind in the Willows kind of vibe.
Yeah.
This is also a very dark show.
It's kind of like, I guess, like Huckleberry Finn, like New England, but kind of more fantasy driven.
Yeah,
because they're like talking frogs and shit. Well, they don't talk, but they wear human clothes and everything like that.
They do talk. They sing.
Oh yeah, they do. They do sing.
George Washington sings.
Aw, yes. This is Wirt. You're Wirt. This is also Wirt. But give us like the overall plot sketch, please.
So Wirt and Greg are wandering through the woods. In the beginning, they encounter the woodsman.
They're trying to find their way home.
The woodsman, played by Christopher Lloyd, warns them of a beast of the woods. And they just kind of play him off. They think he's crazy.
Yeah.
And as they continue to wander through the woods, it's revealed there is a beast who is like who's kind of like the devil to Christopher Lloyd's. I don't want to say like Jesus, but they're kind of locked. Not really. But the woodsman and the beast are locked in like an eternal struggle.
Yes. So the beast had like to stay alive. He has to have a soul in the lantern, which is what the woodsman carries, a lantern, and it comes to be revealed that the beast is making the woodsman like do his bidding because his daughter's soul is trapped in the lantern. So he's like, the woodsman is trying to beat the beast, but he's also being manipulated into serving him.
The beast is having him harvest souls.
Yes,
because the beast like tricks or waylays souls and puts them to sleep.
And then trees grow over them, and so the woodsman cuts up the trees and feeds it to the lantern, which keeps the light lit, keeps the beast alive. It's fucked up.
Yeah,
okay?
It's dark. It's very dark. I just now realized that the trees with the scary faces, those are the trees of the people.
Yes. Those used to be people, and now the beast is feeding off of them.
I love the voice of the beast. It's the guy who plays him. I forget the name, but he's a trained opera singer.
Yo, okay.
So that's why it's
very booming and deep and scary.
Yeah, it's very resonating. If you get the chance, listen to this. Just go on YouTube and listen to the soundtrack.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful soundtrack. It's we were trying to decide, how to describe it, I guess, and it's somewhere between like ragtime, but ragtime's too like happy for most of it. It's more slow, so we're thinking like an old downbeat player piano in a haunted saloon or something like that.
Like if Tom Waits were to strip down a little and go live in New England for a while.
So I have the episode list up, and there are 10 episodes, and they're 15 minutes each. Well, more like 11 minutes.
Yeah.
So when this originally aired, I watched it when it aired in, I think, 2014. Yeah. And they would show 2 episodes a night for 5 days. And I missed a few, but I, caught up at some point. But, so you want to go through and, kind of describe each of the episodes and, their settings?
I would love to.
Okay. So the first one's the Old Grist Mill, which is when they come across the woodsman for the first time. And they kind of find an old mill, and that's when they're introduced to the beast. And that kind of sets the stage, I guess. There's also a dog who they think is the beast, and they defeat, but no.
Yeah, it's just a poor dog.
Yes. Okay.
Didn't the dog swallow a turtle or something?
Yeah, he was choking on a turtle, and it made him scary.
Turtles are huge throughout this series.
At one point, Greg, who is a true angel.
Oh, I love Greg.
He is a little round baby.
May we all have a friend like Greg.
At one point, he comes in to this house, kind of uninvited, and he sees there's a barrel of small turtles, and this girl's like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "We're here to burgle your turts."
I think about that line a lot.
Me too. I also think of Greg's famous line, "Ain't that just the way?"
Ain't that just the way?
He has wisdom beyond his years. Also, that frog's giving me the runaround.
Or when so he's carrying a frog. Greg carries a frog around the whole show,
and it gets renamed every episode, multiple
times. And at one point, he named it George Washington. And one time, George Washington bounds away out of the cloak, and Greg just screams, "The president is nude!"
Yes, I love that one.
That's so good.
It's a rock fact, dude. It's a rock fact. So, episode 2, you should talk about that one.
So they come in contact with this little bluebird.
Yeah, Beatrice,
who joins them on their quest, and they stumble upon this quaint little New England hamlet
called Pottsburg.
As you name such towns. I don't know.
No, it's important, and I'll say why in a moment.
Ooh,
so
I
go
didn't catch
ahead.
That. So the town seems empty at first, and then they find everyone wearing pumpkins and corn husks in the big barn.
So masks and you can't see their heads or their faces because they have jack-o'-lanterns on.
And so the townsfolk realize that they're outsiders and this giant pumpkin god
Well, it's kind of like a maypole. It's like a weird maypole come to life, but a pumpkin. Voiced by Chris Isaac, who's a country singer.
Well, his voice is so good.
And he's been in David Lynch movies, so yeah.
What?
So yeah, and he's like, "Y'all are too early." And they're like, "What?" No. And so they make them go out into the field and dig holes.
Because they, trampled crops.
Yeah. And so they're they're making us dig our own graves. And then, apparently not, because at the bottom of one of the holes, they find a skeleton. And the skeleton jumps out of the grave and puts on a pumpkin and all of these corn husks. And they're all skeletons. So, Pottsfield in graveyard terminology, a potter's field is where the poor and the destitute would be buried. So the potter's field is where all of the lower class people were buried. So that's basically, they went through the potter's field, and they were seeing all of them celebrating harvest.
Huh.
Yeah. So you're like, Pottsfield, I don't know what that means. Yeah.
I like we said, there's a lot going on for this show.
And they keep saying, you're early, you shouldn't be here yet, we weren't expecting you yet. And then the like pumpkin god, what's his name? He has a name, I don't know. The pumpkin god guy was like, we'll be back someday. So there's some hints at some darker,
something
deeper
going
stuff
on.
going on. Okay, so episode 3
was the school.
Yeah, that one's probably my least favorite.
Same.
Okay.
But it, especially in the design of this, they stumble upon a woodland schoolhouse with a bunch of little animals run by this, and the schoolhouse is run by this lady who, it made me realize that the art style is a lot like Hark a Vagrant.
Yeah.
Like, especially a school teacher looks like a Kate Beaton character.
Yeah, I agree. Also, like, if you couldn't already tell, this is a musical. There are songs in, like, every episode.
Was it molasses?
Potatoes and molasses. And Greg leads all the school children animals in it.
Greg is constantly singing.
And Tyler, his favorite song from the whole series is the A is for the apple that he gave to me. The teacher sings, and I'm like, that is not one of my faves, but it's interesting. And the teacher is like mad because her ex-boyfriend, old Jimmy Brown, he left her, but there's a gorilla loose in the woods. And so, like, there's a gorilla in the woods, and turns out it was just Jimmy Brown wearing a costume because he was at the circus. It's very whimsical and weird. It doesn't make any sense. But this episode also has the classic Greg line, "School, pfft, not today."
I get that. I think about that a lot when I have to go to school.
Yeah, I agree. We're teachers at this point. Okay, next one.
Next, the gang, Beatrice, Greg, Wirt, and George Washington all end up at a little tavern in the woods.
Oh, I like this one. Songs of the Dark Lantern. It's more of like an exposition.
It's kind of a detour episode.
Yeah, it is. There's not much that happens, but it's fun.
It's just a bunch of tavern characters kind of singing their own songs.
I'm the highwayman.
Yeah.
There's a highwayman. And they kind of, it's more for them to learn more about the beast because they're like, wait, the woodsman's the beast. And this girl's like, no, whoever holds the lantern's the beast. And they're like, well, that is,
Well, and they encounter the woodsman again. And this time you actually get to see the beast.
Yes, really. You know it's not the woodsman, even though they think it is, because whoever holds the lantern is the woodsman. Or supposedly. But whoever holds the lantern is the beast, I'm sorry. But so you see the beast interact with the woodsman. He's like, "You're killing children!" And he's like, "None of your business, woodsman. Just help me with my errands and your daughter shall be free," or whatever. And it's really dark and scary. But there's some good songs in that episode, too.
It's a real Ingrid Bergman power play between the two. Real Seventh Seal.
Okay, so chapter 5 is one of my favorites, which is Mad Love.
John Cleese.
John Cleese, they do on these episodes sometimes start like in media res, like in the middle, like we start in the middle of a dinner at this like old man's like mansion, and his name's Quincy Endicott.
And they're pretending to be like his
nephews because he's senile, and he's like, "Who are you?" And they're like, "We're your nephews. Give us money. We
need money for a ferret."
Yeah. Also Beatrice is taking them to Adelaide of the pasture, the good woman of the woods, to send them home. But maybe not. So, John Cleese thinks his mansion is haunted by the ghost of a woman.
So they go exploring in this
real
labyrinth.
And he's, like, very scary. He's, like, funny and, like, off out of his head, but also kind of frightening.
Like, I think that there might be a ghost, or my mind is slowly going in the ruins of this decrepit house.
Yes. So that one's really fun, and it's kind of like they're hunting a ghost, and they realize that he had built his mansion so large that it ran into the mansion next door. So it's kind of like combined now, and so he owns like a tea empire. Yes.
And his rival, this lady who owns this French lady who owns the mansion next door. So their houses had just like progressively merged together.
And they each thought they were ghosts. So like they each thought the other was a ghost, and then they fall in love. Also, the woman, the lady ghost, who isn't really a ghost, is voiced by Frasier's ex-wife, Bebe Neuwirth.
Dear listeners, if you were to know one thing about Lynn, it is that Frasier holds probably the highest throne of love in her heart.
Probably.
Outside of, like, your mom.
Yes. I'd say it's my mom, and then Frasier and Always Sunny is tied.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not surprising, though.
Okay, so Mad Love is a really cute episode.
That's a great one.
Oh, yeah, that's when they meet. Well, they have the talking horse in that episode.
Yeah, the talking horse is around for, like, 10 episodes.
He's cool, though. It's funny because you expect it to be, like, very moralistic because it's a kid show, I guess. That they're like, we need to steal some money to get to the ferry. And Wirt's like, we can't steal. What do you want to do, horse? And he's like, I want to steal.
And then Wirt's like, how much do we need? 2 pennies? Well, you might have that lying around.
Yeah. It's unexpected in a lot of ways. What's the next episode?
The next episode is... Oh, it's The Ferry.
Yeah, this one's not one of my faves. So you should talk about it.
So they do get to the ferry, and it's all full of frogs, like George Washington.
Yeah, and they're all wearing fancy clothes. And some of them are carrying... blankets full of tadpoles that get spilled on the ground.
And so there's kind of just a Keystone Cops chase with the gang and and some cop frogs.
Yeah, and they have to pretend to play in a frog band.
And that's when George Washington is revealed to have a very melodious voice.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah.
And Wirt throws down with an oboe.
Yeah.
Or, no, bassoon.
Yes, it's a bassoon, because he plays the clarinet. And writes poetry. Wirt is very sensitive and beautiful.
Wirt's a good kid.
Yeah. Beatrice is mean as a snake to him, which is hilarious. But he also resents his stepbrother, Greg, which... I
didn't know they were stepbrothers.
Yeah. Because at one point they're like, who's this? And he's like, his dad remarried my mom, got remarried, and then they had him. And
I never caught that.
Okay, so they get off the ferry, and kind of all the frogs go to sleep in the mud, and it's getting colder. One of the things is that the moon never changes; it's always a half moon, but it gets increasingly colder as they go deeper into
throughout
the woods.
This, like, beginning, especially at the beginning of this series, there's little subtle hints that autumn is waning. Like, just really creepy shots of, like, leaves, the forest kind of slowly dying and retreating. And now at the end of the ferry ride, with the frogs, like, going into hibernation, that's where the mood of the whole series really shifts.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is the episode where they go to Adelaide the pasture.
This is.
Okay.
Beatrice runs away from them, and they track her down to the witch.
Yeah, Adelaide of the pasture.
Adelaide. And they discover that Adelaide had cursed Beatrice and her family to be bluebirds. Because
she like stole something from her.
Yeah.
Or something. So now she has to bring her two servants to break the curse, and Adelaide will let Beatrice free and her family.
Beatrice was initially luring Wirt and Greg to the witch,
but then she felt bad.
Yeah, she grew to like them, but then they discovered what she was going to do, and then so they kind of like have a falling out.
Yeah, But Adelaide is such a cool character. It's
also John. Is it John Cleese?
Yes, that one's voiced by John Cleese too. But she has these scissors, like these gold scissors that look like a bird.
So cool.
And they're so beautiful. And she like cuts thread with them. And supposedly that's how you break the curse of Beatrice. She can clip her wings and turn her back into a person. And she's destroyed by fresh air. So she's always like, close that window, close that door, whatever. And so they destroy her by opening all the windows and all the doors, and she kind of like fades away, which is really cool.
Yeah. And so the gang has a falling out, and Beatrice is separated from the guys.
But she still feels the need to like make it right, kind of.
And so the next episode is the bell episode.
Yes, by the ringing of the bell.
So
I
good.
love this episode so much.
So the guys stumble onto this hut where this young woman is cleaning.
Her name's Lorna.
Lorna, and there are bushels of turtles.
Yeah.
Burgle your turds.
Yeah. Lorna, she looks like Puritan, like Salem, like 1400s or whatever.
She and Wirt have a moment.
Yeah, it's really sweet.
A little precious moment.
So she lives with this woman named Auntie Whispers, and Auntie Whispers is this huge like witch figure who
if you've seen Howl's, not Howl's, but Spirited Away.
It's similar to that.
Yeah.
And she keeps Lorna in like indentured servitude, and she makes her clean all the time and do all this stuff to keep the evil from her, to like keep her from going bad.
Her
Auntie Whispers, but they're not really ants.
Yeah, Auntie Whispers controls the girl with a bell.
She's like, clean all this up, ling-a-ling-a-ling, and she's like, I have to do that now. But and Wirt is so funny. He's like, oh my gosh, she is awful. And Lorna's like, no, I have to take care of Auntie Whispers. And he's like, is she really your aunt? And she's like, no, we're not really related. And he's like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Oh my god.
How have we not mentioned Wirt's style this whole episode?
Oh yeah, one time a few years ago on Halloween I saw a guy dressed up as Wirt.
Nice.
It was great.
He has on like this red wizard cone looking thing.
It is like a dunce cap, but it's red.
And he has this like Civil War Navy
blue coat. Like cloak. It's a cloak. He looks good. Also, Greg is wearing green overalls and has a teapot on his head.
Because he's an elephant.
Well, we don't know that yet. So, anyway, so they're like, oh my gosh, we have to get you out of here because this woman is crazy and you are being exploited, and she's being
just
awful
munching on turtles and being awful.
Yeah, Auntie Whispers eats turtles. So they take her, they're starting to take her away, and she's not doing her chores, and then they wake up Auntie Whispers, and she comes down, and she's like, no, you can't do this, stop, and they get locked in a room with Lorna.
And Greg had stolen the bell.
Yeah.
And it's revealed that Lorna is possessed, and she turns into this terrifying...
She's so scary.
Oh.
So Auntie Whispers was protecting her from herself and like keeping her under command so she wouldn't be overtaken by this demonic spirit.
So Lorna chases the guys into the swamp. Wirt's plan, like all of his plans, fails.
Yes. He's
and Greg uses the bell to destroy the evil spirit.
Yeah, he's like, get out of here, ring, ring, ring. Which, that's the thing. Because these are such short episodes, they
resolve very quickly.
Beatrice could have opened all those windows and killed Adelaide of the pasture. If Auntie Whispers really was that dumb and didn't think, oh, I can command this demon out of her. But anyway, I mean, they're like folk tales.
Yeah.
I mean,
childlike. It's like Hansel and Gretel.
Yes. And at the end, they're like, thank you so much for returning my beautiful Lorna to me. You saved her. Now watch out for my sister, Adelaide. And they're like, shit. Okay, yeah, oops. I know. Okay, so next up.
Babes in the Wood.
That's
your episode.
Wait, which one is that?
That's the one where Greg hallucinates.
Oh, yeah. So,
the Cuphead aesthetics.
This one, this is when shit gets real.
Oh.
They're kind of lost in the wood. They're getting more and more lost, and it's getting colder and colder.
Yeah, because Wirt is a bad leader.
Yeah, he's bad. So they're trying to survive. It's getting so cold. Greg they go to sleep by this tree, and Greg has this dream sequence that is so, like, 1920s animation,
like
in these clouds, and there's like all these candy people and like animals,
Steamboat Willie, Cuphead, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing and it's beautiful and like
it turns very ominous.
Well, like the old north wind comes in. There's a song called the Old North Wind.
There's a jangly menacing piano,
and he blows everything away, and Greg has to save everything, and then the beautiful Queen of the Clouds come down, and it's like, Greg, thank you so much for saving. I want to grant you a wish, and I think, what is his wish again?
Isn't it to like save Wirt?
Yeah, he's like, he
sacrifices himself,
and she's like, are you sure? And he's like, yes, and he's like, I want Wirt to go home, so I'll stay here.
So Greg goes off in service of the beast.
Yeah, so when he wakes up, the beast is waiting, and he's like, okay, I'll serve you from now on if you just let Wirt go. It's so sad. Oh my god.
And so Beatrice...
Also, it's like snowing at this point.
Yeah. So Beatrice discovers Wirt and somehow gets Wirt into a tree hollow with her entire family.
Yeah, and they feed him some ground up dirt and stuff, and they're like, okay, you gotta be a leader now. You gotta go save your brother because he loves you.
Yeah.
Oh god, it's sad.
And so the penultimate episode is...
Oh, I love this one.
It's a drastic
change. So sudden.
It's revealed that Wirt and Greg are from modern times.
Which is because everyone looks like they're from 1890 in the show. So you assume it's, that old or whatever.
Like, they're shown at a football game.
It's Halloween night.
Halloween, there's kids running around trick-or-treating.
So their outfits are their Halloween costumes. So it shows... It's so cute. Wirt is like in his bedroom listening to like sad music and in his little sweater and jeans.
Probably jamming to some Morrissey.
Yeah. And he goes up in the attic and he finds a Santa hat and he cuts off the white part, and that's what his hat is, and an old Civil War cloak, and he gets the cloak and that's him, and he's like,
I love that he just stands in the mirror with a fan trained on him.
Yes, and then he goes... He, like, puts his arms up in a V, and he's like, yes, I'm ready.
We are all Wirt.
Yes,
in
and
some way.
He has made a tape of his poetry for Sarah, this girl he has a crush on.
Whose Halloween costume is great.
On point. She's a clown, but, like, a good
clown. I thought she was a Dia de los Muertos.
No, she's like a skeleton clown.
I
don't know. But, yeah, it's really cute, and he has a crush on Sarah, and all these kids but he's having to take care of Greg, who, oh my gosh, Greg steals a rock from this old lady's, garden, and he's like, thanks, old lady Johnson. She's like, you're welcome, Greg. Don't call me an old lady. He goes, okay, young man. Runs away.
This show... It's just so good. Like,
it's awesome.
Has the purest police officer
yes.
ever.
Hey, you kids. Quit running in the street. Just kidding. Happy Halloween.
Hey, you kids. Stop messing around. Just kidding. It's Halloween.
It's like present day. They're all going to... they go to a party. They meet up with Sarah. And Sarah's like, hey, we're going to go to the graveyard.
No. Because you're forgetting the tape. Why they're chasing after her.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Because Wirt put the tape in her jacket.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh no, I should have done that.
Yeah, he regrets it, so they're chasing after her to get the tape back before she can find it.
And then he finds out that Jason Thunderburger.
Jason Thunderburger.
Who has the most, just so nasally.
Also, Jason Thunderburger is definitely dressed as Max from Rushmore.
Oh.
But yeah. And so they meet up at a party, and Sarah's like, hey, we're gonna go to the graveyard and drink a age-appropriate beverages.
I love that line.
So they go to the graveyard, and they're kind of sneaking behind all these people.
Mm-hmm.
And they're looking over these graves, and one of the graves says Quincy Endicott. And so they find them, and
Jason Funderburker is
coming on to Sarah.
Trying to make his move.
Yeah.
Can I hold your hands?
So, and Sarah finds the tape, but then the cops show up, and they're like,
Hey,
you kids! And everything.
Is this a witch gathering?
Yeah. So they all kind of run away, and Greg and Wirt climb up over this garden wall at the edge of the cemetery, and then that goes off to like some train tracks, and a train's coming, so they have to jump, and they jump into this down. Well, they fall down a hill and then fall into a lake, and then that's the end of the show. Well, the end of that episode.
So now you know it's all they are unconscious.
They're in purgatory.
Mm-hmm.
They're like.
They're walking with death.
Yeah, so all of the people that they met have been dead and have their graves in this graveyard. And so the Pottsfield people were in the Pottersfield area. Quincy Endicott was on one of the graves, and they met him. So it's been like them traveling through to try to come out the other side and survive. Mm-hmm. And the beast represents... Well, to me, I feel like the beast represents the dead being forgotten. So, because then they just become like faceless trees.
Yeah.
Rather than people. So, like, if the beast gets them, they're done for. They're dead. Mm-hmm. He has them forever now.
Yeah, in the final episode, the woodsman is basically dueling the beast, and Wirt discovers Greg, who has begun to be overtaken by the trees.
Yes, he passed all of the beast tests, too. He was so smart and so good
Wirt,
to save Wirt. And Greg is on the ground, he's passed out, and trees are growing around him. And
so sad.
Wirt has to be like, what?
The beast poses a proposition to Wirt. Your brother will live if you serve me for all the rest
if
of
you
time.
become the woodsman, basically. Yeah. He'll live in the lantern. Mm-hmm. So, which is exactly what he did to the woodsman and his daughter.
And Wirt almost takes it, but then rejects it, realizing that...
I love that scene, because he's like, okay, and then he's like...
Wait a moment.
No. That's dumb.
Mm-hmm. That's a great moment.
The beast is like, what? And he's like, that's dumb. I'm not going to do that. Okay.
Okay, so am I getting it correctly that the beast was actually kept alive by the flame?
Yes. So he made sure that the woodsman or whoever served him would protect the flame by saying that that was the soul of their loved one. But that was actually the soul of the beast. So once they extinguished the lantern, he's gone. That was all of his power.
Yeah.
So they defeat the beast.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't the woodsman blow it out?
Yes, because he's like, am I going to sacrifice my daughter for this? And he's like, I don't know if this is true, but yeah, this is worth it.
And so...
Because she's not at peace.
The beast is defeated. Wirt and Greg gain consciousness.
Yeah.
They wake up in the hospital. Mm-hmm. And Sarah comes and visits him and tells him she likes the tape he made her.
And then there's this really, really beautiful montage of Beatrice going back to her family, and they're all people now, and Auntie Whispers and Lorna sitting by the fire, and the woodsman coming home and seeing his daughter on the porch.
Yeah, Beatrice.
God.
Beatrice gets her family back.
Yeah, Quincy Endicott and his love are there together, and it's like they're all still there, kind of.
They're all reunited in the afterlife.
Over the garden wall is kind of an afterlife area where they can all be together.
Oh man, this show is so good.
I love this show so much. But and you realize the closer to winter it is, the closer to death they're getting. The moon stays the same because it's the same moon as the night that it happened on Halloween night. There's so many beautiful little details that are just amazing in this show.
We were talking before this podcast, but I read somewhere about how the whole show is kind of one big reference to Dante's Inferno.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I haven't read Dante's Inferno. I'm
Me
not
neither.
too familiar with it.
I believe
I know
there
the
is a character
basics.
named Beatrice in there, though.
Oh, really?
So,
Well, because, like, there's the ferry being carried over to the other side. And, like, in the show, that's when things get real.
Mm-hmm.
Once they get off the ferry. Like, they're in
yeah.
the darkest part of the woods. Just like in the book, Welcome to Hell.
Yeah.
And at the very end of Dante's Inferno, at the lowest level of hell where Satan is,
Mm-hmm.
it's frozen over. And that's why
It's winter.
the final encounter with the beast is a very bleak winter scene.
Mm-hmm. And I love that this show, it presents death not as... Death isn't the greatest enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's being forgotten or being, not loneliness, I guess, in death.
Disappearing, yeah.
Yeah, because it shows that if you die, you can still have community, and there's the kind of like an upside down world, like just beyond our perception, where everything is okay.
Yeah.
And there's like darkness there too, but it's not overwhelming.
The whole show it's dark, but there's also a gentle spirit about it.
It's so sweet. Like, it's very... I read kind of a thing where it was like, when Greg went into his dreamscape, that would be what his afterlife would look like.
Oh my god.
I know. And it would just be, like clouds and happiness and all that, but he chose his brother over that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just... And at the very end, very, very end, the frog is in the hospital room, though. And they shake him, and there's the bell in his belly.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
So it was real, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's...
George Washington was there.
Yeah.
For them.
It's just such a... we say pure a lot. But like...
that's the best description to it.
It's so pure and kind and just sweet and beautiful and gentle. I love it.
Like, it's dark, but...
It's dark in a fairy tale way.
In, like, an honest way.
Yeah. It's like, this is a show about death.
Like, it's not meant to scare you. It's more just, like... It's, like, kind of, like, thinking about, like, what's lurking ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This show is so beautiful. And it's continuing on in a comic book series, and I have one of the comics, and it's okay, But, I mean... It's so perfect in what it is. Mm-hmm. I would never want any more content from it. Like, this is perfectly encapsulated in an hour and a half.
Yeah. It's on Hulu, so everyone, I think it's worth getting that free trial of Hulu.
Get that free week of Hulu, which is trash. Like, they should offer at least a month free, honestly. But, it genuinely is one of the best pieces of media I've seen in my life. I guess.
Who was it? Wasn't it Mondo that put out the vinyl soundtrack? And I don't own any vinyl, but if I were, that would be one of my first purchases.
It's so... And... Oh yeah, at the very, very end, one of my favorite little touches is... they go back to the opening music, which is like this piano, and the piano like comes up, and it's the frog playing the piano and singing. It's been George Washington this whole time. And he ends it with the loveliest lies of all, which is like they've switched the lyrics. And so now it's like, so what was real? Does it even matter? Like, yeah.
A real life of pie.
It's a perfect piece of
media,
film,
storytelling.
Whatever. Yeah, I love it so much.
It's so good.
I think this is two like resounding yeses.
I can't recommend Over the Garden Wall and its soundtrack enough.
I made you watch this last.
This was
October.
one of our earliest friendship moments.
And everyone was like, "Is this gonna be sad?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
And I'm like, yes,
and everyone kept being like, no. Is this baby gonna die? Is this baby gonna die?
I'm going to have to show an episode to my students since I've been just showing them a lot of sad animation.
Oh my god. Okay. Yeah. That. Mm-hmm. I love this show.
So yes, please watch this. There's been rumors of a second season. I don't know what's happening with that. I would be okay with like a new story, like new characters.
I'd rather not revisit Wirt and Greg because I think it's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel. Like some things, I don't need more content. Like Big Little Lies was something, and it like ended so perfectly, and they're like, we're gonna do the second season, blah blah blah, and I'm like, it better be an anthology because I do not want any more. It's done. We're good.
Yeah.
We left you on the beach, and you all love each other, and all your husbands are dead. Okay, it's awesome.
Wait, Adam Scott died?
No.
Okay.
But he doesn't really count. He's lame in that show. But anyway, so yeah, I don't want more Over the Garden Wall. I just want to be able to revisit this over the years from now on.
Agreed.
So yeah, definitely watch Over the Garden Wall. If you still are in the mood for Halloween stuff, watch Scary Godmother, but it is like comparing...
It's like comparing wine that was made an hour ago and costs like $5 a bottle to wine that you've been saving up for like 5 years to buy.
I don't like wine. It's
I don't
it's
either,
like comparing like a kid cuisine to like a really good dinner out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lunchables to some fine seafood.
Yes, exactly. So they both have their place, but one is much better. Okay, do you have any personal picks this week?
I do. I am probably not the best emotionally healthy thing to do. I binge watched season 1 of The Leftovers, and so I finished it.
This was your last week pick.
I know, but now that I finished season 1, I can give an assessment, and it is easily the saddest piece of media I've consumed outside of like Antler's Hospice album.
Oh my god. Ugh. Okay.
I know. So you've seen the first season, right?
I didn't like it.
How come?
It was too depressed. I didn't give a shit. Like, everyone was an asshole and crying all the time. And, like, I get that that's the point, but also, like, I was not into it.
Well, I was super into it, so I heartily recommend season 1. I hear season 2 and 3 are way better. So I'm excited to start those, but I was very depressed after finishing season 1.
You've been doing The Leftovers and BoJack Horseman this week, so like get it together.
It's been a real downer of a dynamic duo.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. I have 2 this week.
Oh.
One is the recent Netflix show called Mindhunter that just came out yesterday, so I just kind of started it. Came out on Friday the 13th. It's created by, and I know the first episode is directed by David Fincher, who is one of my faves. I think he's kind of overly hyped by some people, specifically like asshole film bros who really love Fight Club and stuff, but I do think he's a wonderful filmmaker, and Gone Girl changed my life for the better. The cool girl speeches singed upon my brain, I guess. So anyway, Mindhunter is set in 1977, and it is about the creation of the FBI's behavioral psychology division, I guess. It stars Jonathan Groff. He was on like Looking, and he originated a role in Spring Awakening. He's very talented. He's also in Hamilton. But so Jonathan Groff plays this FBI agent who he's a hostage specialist, so he like talks people down. But he's realizing more and more these days, in the late 70s, that people are killing for no reason, kind of. Well, what they perceive as no reason. There's not. They keep talking about, like, if there was a stabbing, used to, we'd look at the ex-boyfriend, we'd look at the boss, whatever. But now it's kind of just, if you run across the wrong stranger, you could be, brutally killed and assaulted and raped and, you know, all this terrible stuff. So they're trying to come to terms with the fact that psychology can definitely help them in just, like, understanding these criminals. And it's really interesting as someone who really likes true crime. And it's based on true events. At this point, I'm on, like, the second episode. And it's wonderful.
I had no idea this was based on, like, real events.
Yeah.
I thought, like, I just kind of saw a promo in passing and just assumed it to be, like, Criminal Minds.
No, well, it is, but, like, directed by David Fincher and much better.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Well, I went to the bathroom while I talked that whole thing. Anyway, so yeah.
I'm gonna cut that out.
I already talked about it being directed by David Fincher. Anyway, so it's his second show for Netflix after House of Cards.
Oh, yeah.
But, interestingly enough, there's one character, he's so chilling and terrifying. His name's, Ed Kesper, I think, and I didn't realize this is a real person. But
I was going to say, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, at this point in the show, Jonathan Groff has been visiting him and, like, creating a rapport with him, and he's in prison, and he was called the co-ed killer because he killed a bunch of sorority girls and had sex with their corpse, and he decapitated his mother and fucked her head, and yeah, so, and he's just such a normal guy and kind of a little odd, and they just talk normally, and he just says all these terrible things, and he's wanting to hear what he has to say because he wants to get, like, inside the mind of someone who would do this stuff, but it's so chilling and interesting and kind of honestly kind of funny because he was trying to get him to talk about why he does this to women, why he hates women. So he was talking about, Jonathan Groff was talking about his girlfriend, and the guy was like, oh, if you have sex with them like this, it's so nice, but if you do down the throat, it's so hard, and there's so much, like, resistance and he goes up to Jonathan Groff and, like, touches the sides of his neck and, like, his throat, and he's like, you feel all that? That's all muscle, so you have to, like, get past all that. It's so scary! I know! But it's really interesting and so well done. It's beautiful cinematically. Like, that cinematography is on point. Music is awesome because it's set in 1977. It's a great show. Me and Al are watching it.
I know. It's very much a U2 kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd like it.
I have a hard time with, like, true crime.
It's not... Surprisingly, it's not violent.
I know, but it's just, like, I like my horror to not be attached to the real world.
Okay. I get it. Sorry, I was yawning. So Mindhunters, watch it. It's really good. It's all on Netflix. Everyone has Netflix at this point, so just watch it. My second personal pick, she's been my personal pick for years and years and years, but I'm going to go ahead and shout out Nicole Dollanganger's album, Natural Born Losers. It came out about 2 years ago, but I've been getting back into it lately. Nicole Dollanganger is a singer-songwriter from Ontario, and she put up a ton of content on a Bandcamp a while back, and it was all free and, like, recorded in her bedroom, and but the lyrics are so dark and terrifying, but also, like, she sings very high and beautifully and softly. So
real Twin Peaks vibe.
Yeah. But I mean, she sings about crime and violence and sexual violence. Like, she has songs from the perspective of, like, a missing person called Have You Seen Me? And she's, like, narrating her own, like, missing poster and, like, where she actually is and what this person did to her because she's dead now. Like, it's really dark and scary. But, she's one of my favorite, musicians, and Grimes, actually, who's another one of my favorite musicians, kind of discovered her on Bandcamp and, like, basically gave her a record deal, and she created a record label to put out Nicole's stuff. So Natural Born Losers is the first like official real produced album with a full band that she's made, and it's perfect. It starts with this song called Poacher's Pride, which is about shooting an angel out of the sky and then keeping it as a trophy and like hanging it up in her bedroom. There's also like she has songs called like You're So Cool, which is a true romance reference, Beautiful and Bad, which is a Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors reference.
Oh man, that's very much in your wheelhouse.
I know, it's just...
This sounds like fate for you to
I know.
fall in love with her.
And she had one of her really old songs, it's about a minute long, but it's called Beverly Marsh, and it's about Beverly from It. And it's just basically all of her... Nicole Dollanganger, the name Dollanganger is from Flowers in the Attic, the V.C. Andrews novel. That's not her real last name.
Wait, isn't that the story about brother-sister?
Yes.
Ugh.
So she's, like, very into, like, horror stuff, horror iconography in movies, and using that...
That's a horror movie?
Flowers in the Attic is, like, a creepy book about, like...
Well, yeah.
Siblings locked in an attic. Yeah, their grandparent is, like... horrific and scary in that book.
Basically, all I know about that movie is from a random episode of I Love the 80s that I caught one time.
That was my favorite show growing up, also. But, no, but her movie references give me life. She has, like, one love song called Blue Moon Motel, where she's like, I'm your Kurt, you're my Courtney, I'm your Mickey, you're my Mickey, I'm your Mallory, which is from Natural Born Killers.
Didn't you get to meet her?
I did! Oh my god, so
Tell us about what you gave her.
She came to Tulsa, and I went by myself to a concert in Tulsa. I drove all the way there, and she was like second or third on the bill. Like, she wasn't even the headliner, but she was touring with Citizen, who I'm not a fan of. But she did her thing, she sang, it was beautiful, and I gave her this really creepy antique stuffed doll. And she was like, oh my god, my mom's collects these. This was made in Russia in like the 1940s. What? And I'm like, oh my god. And so I got a picture of her. But basically, it's just like, if you're into darker lyrics and narrative, it's beautiful. Like,
if you like Twin Peaks, you'll like this.
She sings a lot about like loving violent men, which is scary. But like, there's this one lyric that sticks with me so much because it's like they went out and she watched them shoot bullets into a tree and then feel the bullet holes, and it's like it gives you something I could never give you or never really know. And I'm just like, oh my god, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going off right now, but I just
this is a big thing for me.
I love her so much. So pay tribute, go listen to Nicole Dollanganger on Bandcamp. A lot of her shit is free on Bandcamp, and on Spotify. So Natural Born Losers, let's get that next album, Nicole. Come on, please.
Well, if you want something less dark but just as depressing, I will still talk about The Leftovers.
Oh my god, okay. So, other thoughts? Final thoughts?
What's next week? Is it our... Oh, it's our Paranorman Monster Squad.
Yay!
2 fantastic movies.
2 good ones. Okay, but Scary Godmother is good too. You're just being contrarian. But yeah, those are 2 good movies. I'm excited.
I'm so excited.
We'll finally get to talk about Rudy, who I want to be. Rudy's like the 14-year-old in the Monster Squad, and he smokes cigarettes and has a leather jacket, and he's like, I'm in the goddamn gang, aren't I? Or whatever.
Both those movies are just so good.
Yes.
I haven't seen Paranorman since theaters.
They're both perfect. So that'll be a good episode. It's gonna be exciting.
This month is so good.
Yes, it's jam-packed. So,
oh, wait.
What?
Did you see the final trailer for Stranger Things Season 2?
Not yet.
Oh my god.
I was busy yesterday. I threw a party yesterday, dude.
So, I'm sure most of you did, but I'm so excited.
Okay, but who is that kid who looks like Michael from The Lost Boys? They clearly styled one character after Michael from The Lost Boys.
I thought it was
He's a new character.
What?
No, it's not Steve.
I thought at one point Steve was wearing like a headband.
Oh my god, no. So, like, there's a new character who has, like,
Okay.
a mullet and, like, a single earring, and
Oh
he
my
looks like Michael from The Lost Boys, so
my
I'm gonna
God.
lose my mind, okay? It's gonna be great. Also, my little son is doing so well. Finn
Finn,
Wolfhard.
your little doppelganger.
I look exactly like him. 14-year-old boy or 23-year-old woman.
We may never know.
Who knows?
All right.
So,
Thank
yeah,
you
look
so
forward
much
to
for
it.
listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Have a good one.
Bye.
See you soon.
Clearly behaved like a man demented, obsessed, utterly lost.